Let me move to recruiting for next year in USC. The New York Times had a fascinating story about OJ Mayo recruiting himself, essentially, to USC.
Yeah.
A couple of small facts in it. He had a cell phone number that he would not give to you, and he said basically he could handle recruiting. Is he as brash as he came across in that piece, Tim?
Oh, gosh. I wish you guys knew this kid because he's fascinating to me. Our athletic director, Mike Garrett, has interviewed more high-profile athletes than any athletic director in this country. And I'm talking about from Bush to Leinart, Carson Palmer, all these kids. When OJ left his office, he told me this was the most impressive and mature young man that he had ever had in his office. He's had a vision for what he wanted to do, and that was be in Los Angeles and to put his name on a program. He didn't want to be the next good player at Duke or Carolina or Kentucky. He wanted to play for an NBA coach, and he wanted the market that LA provided. I said, look, are you sure you want to do this? In our first conversation, he says, yes, coach, I'm coming. And I said, well, let me have your cell number. Let's talk. He said, coach, that's not necessary. You're not believing that I'm coming, but I'm coming. I said, well, great. He said, I'll call you. And as it turned out, his mother didn't want 325 Division I head coaches having her number because she's a single mom with 3 kids, and she really couldn't afford to pay that cell bill day in and day out, and she thought his academics were more important than talking on the cell phone to college coaches all night long. So I don't want this kid misrepresented or misportrayed. He's 18 years old. He's going to go on and become a great NBA player, and he's going to be a great representative for that league. And I heard Wilbon was taking shots at him, and I guess if he was a college coach, he wouldn't recruit him. But I'll tell you this much, if he wouldn't recruit guys like OJ Mayo, then I'd like to schedule Mike Wilbon.
From a coaching standpoint, that might work okay. Tim.
Yeah, this kid is terrific, and y'all need to give him a chance. If you go back and you look at YouTube and you look at the video of what was supposedly the bump, I've had 12 journalists tell me it was a flop. It was nothing more than a flop. And yeah, he got in a couple fights in high school, but I did too. And I got a sneaking hunch you guys might have gotten in 1 or 2 yourself. And
if we did, we lost them all.
That's right.
Yeah, I know it. I know.
You know, Tim, when you get a guy who is so atypical to the process and calls attention to himself with whatever it happens, whether it's the uniqueness of his recruiting, his actions on the floor, obviously it's going to raise flags and questions. At what point did you start to believe and see enough in this kid who you had limited contact with that, you know what, this kid is the real deal and he's not a figment of my imagination?
Hey, I'm telling you, Mike, if you watch this kid play a game, yeah, he dunked the ball and is excited and throws the ball up in the stands, okay. But I watched him play 25 AAU games and he's getting hacked and hammered and knocked to the floor and not changing expressions and not throwing punches or elbows, just not reacting to officials' calls, goes to the line. And that's what I was impressed with, was his maturity. And he's been in the limelight since he was in the 7th grade. Yes, he moved to Kentucky. Some man moved him to Kentucky. He starts as a 7th grader. Then they move him to Ohio. This is a 7th grader. He's not making those decisions. Adults are for him. But he has tried to separate himself from all of that. Everybody around this kid wanted him at another university. He said, I'm tired of people making decisions for me. I'm going to do what I think is in my best interest. If I'm going to be in college for 1 year, I want to be in an NBA city where I can start using that as a transition. I want to go to classes in a place where I want to go to class. I want to play for a coach who coached in the league. They've had 3 Heisman candidates in 4 years. They can help me market myself because that's a big part of these young kids going into the NBA. And he thinks different. I respect the fact that he didn't have to be the next good player that went to Duke or to Carolina. That's so refreshing for a guy in my seat.
Let me ask this. I'm looking at this from the outside. You're looking at this from the inside. But from the outside, it looks like it is perhaps a perilous path that everybody's going to take. And one of the questions you would ask when you see him on television, and I see you shaking your head, but how about coachability? Do you ever worry, can I coach him? And do you ever worry, will he actually come here and go to class and play for me, or is it just a springboard to the NBA?
No, absolutely. Listen, this kid, he hasn't told me that he's leaving in a year, okay? He hasn't told me that. But having been in that league and knowing that he doesn't have anything, I don't want the responsibility, Tony, of having him 2 years, because this kid can make a lot of money, and I'm going to kick him out. I don't want him, what happened to Sean Livingston happening to him at my university in year 2, when I know that he could go out and sign a $30 million shoe contract, because his family's going to need that. Now, if he insists on staying, sure, we're going to let him stay. But as far as coachability,
yeah.
two state championships in Ohio, state championship in West Virginia, 41-1 this year. He shares the ball, he moves the ball, he gets in a stance, he guards people, and all he has talked about to me is, I want to win a national championship. That's all he said. I want to win a national championship. He's not coming in to beat Pete Maravich and score 40 points a game. He told me, he said, Coach, Jordan averaged 14 a game at North Carolina. If I have to do that and we win a national championship, then sure, we're going to go do it. As far as the recruiting goes, hey, I loved it. He's like the Pied Piper with these high school kids. He said, look, Coach, what do we need in recruiting? I told him the 3 positions that were open. He said, I'd love to help you with it. I've got some kids that want to come play with me that are great players. Am I going to say no? Sure, I'll listen to you. And sure enough, he got us another great player from Los Angeles, a kid by the name of Davon Jefferson, who's 6'8.5", 230. This kid is about winning. That's all he's done is win. And we have the support system at USC, because we've dealt with more high-profile athletes than any school in this country, to help him continue to mature as a player and as a person.